Hey friends, this video is one of a series of videos we're going to throw at you early in your coaching journey with us at Burley Strength. And this one is just diving a little bit deeper into some examples for set and rep schemes or setups that you will likely see in your training program. I've tried to cover pretty much all of the options in some variation that we'll use in a relatively normal program. There may be some times where we'll use things that you don't see here, but for the most part, I think we've covered all of the basics. If you're familiar with what a training program looks like and you've followed training programs in the past, then a lot of this will be relatively straightforward for you. But if this is your first experience in a gym or the first time following a program using things like RPE or stuff like that, then watching this one through just to get a quick idea of what comes up in your program and what it's kind of going to look like, and then what that translates to in terms of the workout or the session for the day. So we've just got a few different examples from each category of setup here that I'm going to take you through. Like I said, these are just examples and will give you a bit of an insight into what to expect. The default answer to any problems you have with this process is always just ask questions. So if there's anything in your program that you haven't seen in something like this and you're unsure about how to do it or what it means, please just ask us and we will happily help you figure that out. So the first sort of category we're going to look at here is straight sets and reps. This is sort of a pretty standard approach that if you've been familiar with training programs in any form, you'll probably be familiar with. So in the first case or the first example, we've got two different options where you've got consistent reps. So it's just 3 sets of 5 reps. In this first example, you're aiming for 7.5 to 8 RPE. If you haven't already watched the RPE video that also comes in this package of videos, make sure you go back and watch that because that is one of the key training tools that we use in this process. And I think probably one of the more important ideas to understand before you get your head around all of this sort of stuff. So go back and watch that and then come back to this one. But 7.5 to 8 RPE in the too long didn't read nature of things means you're leaving like 2, maybe 3 reps in the tank at the end of each set. So in that scenario, you might find that all 3 sets are the same weight. You might find that all 3 sets are slightly different weights because maybe the first one was easier and you went up a bit or something like that. In this second example, you've got 2 sets, 8 reps, just a straight 9 RPE, so 1 rep in the tank. So generally, you'd think that they are all going to be pretty close to the same range, the same weight for all of the sets in that process. In something like this second example where we've got rep ranges, so in the first part of the second example, that's going to get real confusing if I keep saying it like that. You got 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, all at a 9 RPE, right? So generally with something like this, you would pick just one weight and you would do the same weight for all 3 sets. And you might find that, say you pick a weight for the exercise and you do like 12 reps on the first one, that gives you a 9 RPE. Then you push hard again on that second one and maybe you only get 10 reps. And then on the third, maybe you only get 8. Same sort of idea with the second example here, 2 sets, 4 to 6 reps, 8 to 9 RPE. So as long as you're in that 1 to 2 reps in the tank window, then you're okay. So that's kind of the most basic iteration of things, and one that's probably less common in my programming style these days than it has been in the past. This is probably the most common setup, especially if you're a powerlifter or competing in strength sports or things like that, where you've got a top set and then a drop set. So the idea here, or drop sets, let's add a little S in there just because it's going to satisfy the slightly pedantic part of my brain. But the idea here is that your hardest set for the day is the first working set. So in all of these cases, these are not the only sets you would do. You'd be warming up separately to what's listed here. But again, you can go watch the warm-up video for that. In this case, the first working set of the day is the hardest one, right? So the idea is you're going to hit your heaviest, hardest set at the top of the session when you're freshest, and then you're going to take some weight off that and hit then what we would call your working sets or drop sets. Excuse me. The idea with this is that the best predictor of how you're performing and how you're feeling is what you're doing right now. And so we're using in different ways that first hard set as what's referred to as like a ranging set, a way to get a feel for where are you at strength-wise today and what are you prepared to do. But it also, especially in the context of something like powerlifting, gives you exposure to heavy loads that are within range of your competition movements, and put you in a position where you're practicing the skill of the sport as well as getting stronger. So a couple of different variations. The first one is consistent reps with the drop set. So you got a top set of 5 at an 8 RPE. You're going to take 10% off. So that's what this percentage number means in this setup. Your top set is this first set listed here. Then you've got the drop percentage, and then you've got your working sets or drop sets. This percentage is never fixed. This is where you have a little bit of leeway to adjust up or down based on how you're feeling. On days where you feel like that top set was harder than you expected, you're maybe not feeling as well rested and prepared for what's coming, you would probably take a slightly bigger percentage off that top set to do your working sets. On days where you're feeling really good, sometimes you can take a little bit less off and push a bit harder like that. In the second example, same sort of setup, a set of 3 at an 8 RPE, take 10% off that, and you've got 3 sets of 3 in the 7.5 to 8 range. So again, you wouldn't necessarily expect all 3 of those sets to be at the same weight, but they often are. In the second example here, we've got 2 different variations of a rep range for your drop sets. This is probably the most common variation I use at the moment in training. The idea is this gives you the scope to push or pull based on how you're feeling, but also gives you the window to work within that then allows you to progress over time. So you've got a top set of 3 at a 9 RPE in this first instance. You're going to take 20% off that. Then you've got 3 sets in the 4 to 6 rep range, all aiming to be an 8 RPE. So you wouldn't necessarily expect all 3 of those sets to be the same number of reps. Maybe you get like 6 on the first one, 5 on the second one, 5 on the third one, something like that, which is where you can then aim to progress that over time. In the second set, or example here, you've got a set of 5 at 8 as the top set, 15% for your drop sets, and then you've got 3 sets of 6 to 10 at 8 RPE. So obviously a bigger window there, and that's often the case with the higher rep ranges. You're going to get a bit more of a buffer zone in that rep range. But in both instances, you've got room to push hard on days you feel good and aim for higher reps. On days where you're maybe not feeling as good and not as well rested, then you would probably expect that to be at the lower end of the rep range. This third example is kind of taking this second example, and then expanding on it, mostly in the context of powerlifting. So this is something that's probably more common for competitive lifters than it is the average general physical preparedness sort of everyday person, because it's mostly focused around this idea of practicing your singles. So in this context, you've got a single at 8 RPE, so something you could do 2 more reps with. Then you've got a set of 3 at a 9 RPE, so that's your first proper working set for the day. This one's about gauging how you feel, preparing you for what's to come. Take 20% off, 3 sets, 4 to 6 reps, 8 RPE. Same sort of idea here, but we've got 2 ranging singles. So you're building in intensity with those singles, setting yourself up for this 3 at 9 RPE. So you'll probably find that single in this instance would be pretty close to the weight you're then going to do for this set of 3. And then you got 2 sets of 3 to 5 for drop sets. So that's top set and drop set setups. Again, there are some variations here, but that kind of covers the big ones. In this example, we've got a few different options, but they are all either ascending or descending reps and or load, right? So there's a few different variations here. They've all got 3 sets just to keep things easy, and because I'm not always very creative coming up with these examples for a video like this. In the first one, you've got decreasing reps and maintaining or constant RPE. So first example is 10, 8, and then 6 reps. So you're reading this top down. So 10, your set of 10 comes first, then 8, then 6, all at 8 RPE. So you'd assume for most people that that weight would increase with each of those sets, and this will be the heaviest one. That's often the one we will ask you to record as a metric in TrueCoach. But again, you can watch the TrueCoach walkthrough for that. Same idea in this second example, but higher reps, so 12, 10, 8, and all at 9 RPE. Second example here is essentially the opposite, increasing RPE and constant reps. So the same outcome is you'll probably increase the load a little bit. because the reps are staying constant. So you do a set of 12 and it feels pretty easy, put a little bit more weight on, put a little bit more weight on again. Same sort of idea here, but with a little bit of a window for your RPEs, just to give you some wiggle room, especially that heavier end of things with sets of 5. Then in example number 3 here, we've got rep ranges with then either increasing or decreasing RPE. So this is a similar idea to the rep ranges we talked about with the drop sets. In the first instance, 10 to 12 reps, but then increasing in RPE. So in this case, you've got 4 sets, 7, 8, and then 9 and 10 RPE. So basically, you're just adding a little bit of weight or pushing a little bit harder until the last set's close to failure or at failure. Same sort of idea here with this second one, but 4 to 6 reps, 8, 9, and 10 RPE. Third example and the fourth example are the opposite way. So they're decreasing in intensity. So they're just getting easier. Basically, you'd be taking a little bit of weight off with each one, 10 to 12 reps, going 9, 8, and then 7 RPE. And same thing here with 3 to 5 reps, but 9, 8, and then 7 RPE. This last example is kind of taking the ideas from both of all of these options and smushing them all together. Pyramid or wave loading, the idea is it's going sort of up and down like a pyramid or a wave. It's kind of in the name. In case you haven't already picked up on it, the naming structures in the fitness industry are relatively banal and for the most part self-explanatory. This first example, you've got 10, 8, 6, 8, 10 reps, all at 8 RPE. So again, you'd expect that to go from lightest to heaviest is the 6 at 8, and then you'd be taking a little bit of weight off. Same sort of idea here with the sets of 5. What we're doing is 5 at a 7, 5 at an 8, 5 at a 9, 3 at a 9. So again, increasing the weight there and then coming back again to 5 at 8, 5 at 7. Same sort of idea with this last one, but with rep ranges instead. So 10 to 15 reps for all of the sets, going 8, 9, and then 9.5 to 10 RPE, then 8, and then 7 RPE. This is a look at how you might see some of the progressions built into a training block. We're not always going to give you a built-in progression, especially early in your programming coaching journey. We're generally going to keep it pretty stable over the early period and then look to change things over time with the expectation that you are generally just going to get stronger each week. And rather than giving you different setups or different numbers of reps and stuff each week, we're just going to have you do the same process but aim to hit more weight than you did in the week before it. Again, I've got a progressions video depending on the order in which I film these or edit them. You might be able to watch that now, or if you're watching this anything other than a couple of weeks from now, you should be fine. And the great thing about the internet is I'm not going to tell you about now is just to really mess with you. But these are examples here of progressions where we might build them into, in this case, I think I've built them out as 6-week training blocks. So in this first example, we've got 2 weeks at each sort of landmark. So you're increasing the RPE as we go through things. So the setup stays the same. It's a set of 3 and then 2 sets of 4 to 6. In week 1 and 2, you've got 7, 7.5 RPE for both the top set and drop set. And then it goes to 8, 8.5. And then 8.5, 9 in weeks 5 and 6. So you'd expect the weight to be pretty much going up, increasing each week across those 6 weeks. Obviously, life's not perfect. It doesn't always work like that. And that's kind of why we don't necessarily always put you in a position where we build out a progression like this. It's often more about, here's the ideal scenario, work as hard as you can given where you're at with life right now, and move on like that. Same sort of concept with the second example here, but obviously with lower reps and no drop sets. This is all just straight sets and increasing in RPE with each set. So week 1 and 2, they're all sets of 3, but week 1 and 2, it's 7 to 7.5, 8 to 8.5, then 9 RPE, 7.5 to 8, 8.5 to 9, 9.5 as week 3 and 4, and then 8, 9, 10 weeks 5 and 6. The second example where we will sort of build progression into your program comes from increasing in the total workload or volume that you're doing. So you'll see this is basically the same example as the first option up here, but without the changes in RPE. The change here comes in the number of drop sets you're doing. We go from 2 to 3 and then 4 in weeks 5 and 6. Same idea in weeks. In this second example here, you've got 3 total sets in the first week. You've then got, 5 total sets, and then 4, 7 total sets. So again, increasing in volume as we go through each 2-week mini block, which is an odd way to describe that. But anyway, great. I haven't actually filled out this because I'm the most prepared man in the world. So I'm going to end this here, and we're going to, through the magic of editing, add in the other bit once I've filled that out. So that's it for now. Hey friends, I'm back through the magic of editing. You never even saw the mistake I made, or maybe I forgot to edit it and just left it as it is. So either way, we're here again. So we're just looking at Myo reps, which is a slightly more advanced, I guess, way of doing things, which that's actually just gatekeeping. It's not advanced at all. It's just a different way of doing things. And it's one that I throw in occasionally in sort of off-season powerlifting programs, different things, just because it's a fun way to do some really hard work with often like accessory exercises, things like that. It's a great one to get a sick bicep pump with. But basically the idea is it's essentially just using like a hard set and then a series of lower rep sets to push you right up close to failure. So in the first example where you've just got a single Myo set, you've got this ranging set effectively. So you're going to do one set of 8 at a 9 RPE. Sometimes we'll give you a range, like it might be 8 to 10 or 8 to 12, but you're doing one hard set and then you're going to rest for 30 seconds, no more than 30 seconds. And then you're going to do a set of 3 to 6 reps using the same weight, rest for another 30 seconds, and then you're going to rinse and repeat with those sets of 3 to 6 reps until you can no longer do at least 3 reps. So in some cases, let's say you did 8 reps on the first set, and then the second set you did 6, and then you went 6 again, and then 4, and then 3, and then you'd stop, right? So the idea here is it's just one big set with very short rest periods in between. It's resting no more than 30 seconds between those sets, and then you're done, right? So this is often one we'll throw in like the end of a session for biceps and tricep stuff, things like that. Another way to do things, again, likely to be more prominent in things like accessory work and other stuff like that, is a sort of standard approach to set and reps, and then you've got a Myo rep finisher. So in this case, you've got 3 sets of 10, increasing with RPE, so increasing RPE, so 7, 8, and then 9 RPE. And then you're going to keep that same weight as you've hit for that final set, rest for your 30 seconds, and then you got one set of Myo reps at 3 to 6. So the same process applies as we just talked about. You're going to do at least 3, no more than 6 reps, rest for 30 seconds, and rinse and repeat until you can't get at least 3 reps anymore. That pretty much covers everything for Myo reps, and therefore for this video. As I said at the start, these are all just examples, and I don't expect any of this to be like suddenly just perfect and in your head in a way that means you never have to ask questions. I encourage you to ask questions and hopefully learn a thing or two along the way. But for now, that is all I have for you, my friends, and I look forward to seeing you in the gym soon.